So another overview of some of the new modules that were added to the VCV library in the last weeks. Already we start with a new drum module from Nano that is also available in hardware, of course. We have 4 drum voices with various controls, even individual outputs, built-in compressor and filter, and even an envelope follower output. Right here I have the random loops from Cella, so basically 8 Turing machines. I will use the first channel here to trigger the kick. Also to modulate the drive, we have here a CV input for the drive. Right, I can lock the sequence. Then I can use the second channel here to trigger the snare and to modulate also here the drive. Right here we gave also a few controls. Right, then we have the hi-hat. The hi-hat maybe I will leave random. We have a closed hat and an open hat that is a link to the closed hat, which will be choked by the closed hat. Right, so we have a whole drum machine. Right, and again with compressor and a sort of a DJ style filter. Right, and again we have individual outputs for each of the voices. Right, so something I like doing is processing a kick with tap dancer from flag, which is a delay. So I will send the kick output to tap dancer. Right, just to add another layer. And then again we have the side output, which is an envelope follower. Right, so if I send this here to the scope, right, this is the envelope. And what I'm doing here, I'm using it to bring in another voice, a sort of a chord. I have harmony 2, sending a chord to the VCO unit. There is some modulation. I'm using also the ST font, again from Nano, a stereo filter. Right, so this voice is coming in according to the rhythm of the drums. And Octa works really well also with audio rate triggers. Right, so here I have the VCV VCO tuned a couple of octaves down. I will use it as square output to trigger the kick and the snare. Again at audio rates, this is going through some filtering and chorus. Right, so this is triggering the kick and the snare. And I have here another VCO that I will use to trigger the hi-hats, the closed hat. This is going through some delay. Again at audio rates, but what I will do, I have here 8, or in this case just 4 random voltage generators that I will use to control the drive, to get something a bit more rhythmic. And another one to control the FM or the frequency of this VCO that triggers the hi-hats. So sometimes we will get something more or like ratcheting. And again we have the envelope follower output that I can use also for ducking. Right, so this is again the envelope that we get directly from Octa, but I can invert it and then push it up with the CV mix. So now it starts at maximum and will go down and will duck whatever I want basically. So I want it to duck first of all the drive of the filter, but also the frequency. The next module is the word generator sequencer, inspired by a test equipment device from HP. And it's quite an interesting module or interesting sequencer to experiment with. It has 2 outputs. This is a bit confusing, but the CV output will output gates, and from the gate output we will actually get short triggers, as you can see on the scope. So here I have the twin picks. This is a filter, but it works great with pinging. So I will use the triggers to ping it. Right, and then I can use the gates, for example, to raise the resonance. Right, and you can see here we can turn on and off the steps, the triggers. Right, and by default, this sequencer has 16 steps or 2 sequences. Right, 2 sequences of 16 steps, but we can also chain them by changing this to 32. Right, I will add some delay to this. I have here the ping pong delay from dock B. Now the sequencer has also a one-shot mode. Here I have a bass with kick roll going through some chorus distortion. Right, and I have it set to single cycle, so I can trigger it once. Right, or trigger it with a clock division. Right, and it has also randomness. So here I have a sort of a hi-hat with palette, and we have probability here. Right, so this will turn on and off the steps. And of course we can do this also externally. I will use again a clock division. You can experiment also using this sequencer at audio rates as an oscillator, can also be quite nice. We also have a new collection from Logical Audio with a few interesting logic modules. For example, we have here the L noises. It has 2 noise outputs, right? We can choose between a pink, white, or brown noise. And we have A and B, 2 logic inputs that we can combine for each noise in different ways. So I have here 2 gate sequences. I'm going to use this for A and B. For now, they are both set to OR, so they will basically combine the sequences, but I can use one with XOR, for example, and one with AND. Right, so now we have 2 different sequences, one's for the white noise and one's for the pink noise. Right, they have their own rhythms, and this is going through 2 bandpass filters that I can also modulate with another module from this collection, L-Rentix, which is a synced random generator, so I can again use the same sequences. Right, and this will modulate the cutoff of the filters. Right, so we have also some movement here. Now we can do something similar, not just with the noise, with any audio. We have the L-Carrier module. It has a dedicated audio input, so you can use any audio source. In this case, I'm using the VCO unit. And again, we have A and B, 2 logic inputs that we can combine in different ways. So again, I will use 2 gate sequences. And then we have different outputs here. This will go through some chorus and a modulated filter, right? So I can use the AND. Only when both are high, we get this audio. Right, or XOR, for example. And you get a new rhythm. We have also unsynced random modulation with the L random, right? It has also CV inputs for the frequency or for the rate. This is exactly what I'm doing here, and I'm using 4 of them or all of them as pitch sequences. Again, the VCO unit through bandpass filter. We also have new modules from Venom. So we have the Sphere to XYZ that can be great for processing modulation and audio, and also to work with the Pen 3D and the Crossfade 3D. You can use them to morph between signals. We have on the Pen 3D, we have 1 input and multiple outputs. And on the Crossfade, we have multiple inputs and 1 output. And we have also the Wave Multiplier, which is really a sound design beast. Right, so here I have a chord with the VCO unit and harmony too. Right, this is already going through the crossfade 3D. Now the crossfade 3D can work also with polyphony, so a polyphonic input will be spread throughout the different inputs, right? So you don't have to connect all the inputs. And now I can crossfade between them, so we have left and right. Right, we have bottom and top. And we have front and back. Right, and again I have here a chord, so these are the different notes. And of course we can also modulate this. So I have here 3 LFOs going through the sphere to XYZ. You can see the result on the scope. So I'm just going to use the X, the Y and the Z to modulate the crossfading. Right, now instead of sending this directly to the mixer, I will disconnect it and I will send it to the Pen 3D module. Right, and again here we have one input and multiple outputs, so we can also process the outputs differently. So I have ones going directly to the mixer, again left and right. And then I have another version going to a delay and another version going through a phaser, again with modulation. Right, so you can create really interesting movement also in the stereo field. And again we have the wave multiplier. Here I have just a triangle wave from the VCO unit going into it. It will sound like this. This is now just a triangle wave going through a chorus, a filter and a delay. Right, but now I can add up to 4 copies of this wave, but going through internal processing with internal modulation. So this, for example, right, is the first one. We have dedicated LFO offsets or modulation offsets, and I can set the general or the overall rate, and I can add more copies. I can even mix this in. So really lots and lots to explore here. We have also individual outputs, right, of each of the processed wave or processed copy. Right, so I can use, for example, one pulse output to modulate the filter at audio rates. We can also bypass the internal modulation, right, the internal LFOs, and use something else like an audio rate signal, another VCO unit that I have here. Right. I can even modulate the shape here and even the phase. Oh my god, listen to this. Right, so really lots to explore with the wave multiplier, and again we can use also the sphere to XYZ to process audio. Right, it has even oversampling, which is quite nice. So I have here 3 VCO units that I'm just sending to the sphere to XYZ, and I'm using the results here, crossfading between them with the crossfade 3D, going through a filter, some delay. There are a few more modules I would like to show you. The first one is 2-state from Cella. This is a switch with internal voltage, so you can switch between 2 states, high and low, right? And there are 3 sections here. There are many things you can do with it. In this case, I'm mixing the outputs to create a sort of a sequence, as you can see here, right? That I'm using to sequence resonators from the same collection. Right, so according to the voltage here, we have louder or softer chords. There's another module from Cella, it's called Integral. I still have to experiment with it, but in this case I'm using it as a wave shaper to generate a pitch sequence, right? I'm using an LFO here. and eventually this will sequence 2 VCO units going through a filter here. Right, and you can see I'm using the triangle. If I use the saw, for example, right, we don't really get a saw, and according to the rate and the lick, right, we can get all sorts of results. It goes up, it goes down, it slides down, goes up again. Really can be an interesting wave shaper, also for audio maybe. Again, there's a lot still to experiment with it. But there's also a new module from JW. This one, it's called Arrange, and this will allow you to create arrangements for your voices and patches. I have here some drums and also a bass, right, and I can select when to bring them in and out. Basically, I have everything going through Arrange, right, as you can see here, inputs and outputs, right. You can also tag things or name things to know exactly what is what. And then you can just select when you want to bring them in. So for example, the hats I can bring in from here to here, and then the snare, let's say something like this, and let's say here we'll have already the kick, right, and then from here maybe we'll have also the bass line. The bass line is stereo, right, and also the bass line delay, maybe it will go to the end. And like this you can create right, just create arrangements and select what will come when. You have a clock that you can use. You can use slower clocks, so you can have each of these bars or slots have a 1 bar or 2 bar long or 3 bars long or 4 bars long, and so on and so forth. So this can be quite useful for creating arrangements. But that was it for today. Please consider supporting the developers. Thank you for watching. Cheers.